Get it, slip it, cuff it, check it. High blood pressure silently affects millions of Americans. Staying on top of your blood pressure is as simple as these 4 easy steps. Self-monitoring is power. Visit manageyourbp.org to learn more.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rachel Polanski, and I am the morning anchor at News Channel 9 right here in Syracuse. And I'll be serving as your MC today. I don't know about you, but I'm pretty hungry after seeing that first clip of the grilled fish there. My lunch definitely didn't look as good as that did today. Hopefully you have something good to eat. I'm really excited about today's panel because it's all about eating smart. And I'm always looking for healthy meal ideas myself. I'm hoping Emily, one of our panelists, can help me out with that, but we'll get to that in just a moment. Today is the annual Check It Challenge. It is a free evidence-based wellness and blood pressure management program that focuses on improving your health by making simple changes to prevent and manage high blood pressure. And it's not too late to sign up. You can tell your boss, your friends, your family, whoever you want, sign up, take the challenge now. That link is www.heart.org/checkitny. And we want to say thank you to all of our sponsors. The Check It Challenge is proudly sponsored by Broadview Federal Credit Union, Baxter, the Kinney Drug Foundation, Central Hudson Gas and Electric, and media sponsor CNY Latino. Now a little bit of housekeeping to go over before we get started. To ask your questions today, you're going to have to use the chat box. Make sure you select everyone so everyone can see your questions. If everybody doesn't mind giving it a try now, and we'll make sure we all have our settings correct. So in the chat box, go ahead, introduce yourself, just say your name, where you're joining from, what organization you're with, really whatever you want to say there, just so we can make sure that that's all working for us in the chat box. And so I'll wait till I see that here. All right, we got Christy in Syracuse. I just want to write down here. Okay. So while our panelists are speaking, feel free to put any questions you have in that chat box. We'll hold all the questions and we'll get through as many as we can during the Q&A at the end of the session. As a reminder, this is a public event, so please avoid disclosing any personal medical information if you're using that chat feature. We are recording the session today and it will be available on the Check It Challenge website and the American Heart Association's Eastern States YouTube channel approximately 2 days after the webinar closes. Your registration from today will give you access to all of these recordings, future events, and resources on the event website. Of course, that's www.heart.org/checkitny. If you are using social media throughout today's conversation, that is great. Please use the handles you see on your screen at AHA New York and hashtag checkit. If you want to tag American Heart Association in any of your social media posts. We'd love to see it. We are so glad that you've joined us for this second webinar in the Check It Community Conversation series titled Eat Smart. As part of eating better, the American Heart Association urges everyone to be aware of their sodium intake. We are celebrating National Nutrition Month right now, and who doesn't love food, especially right now during lunchtime? Our first speaker today is Amalia Swan. She is the Chief Community Impact Officer at the Food Bank of Central New York. She has been with the Food Bank for 29 years, largely focused on increasing participation in several federal nutrition assistance programs, including SNAP and WIC. Amalia has coordinated outreach efforts in 6 counties, created a website that allows individuals to self-screen for SNAP, played a critical role in reducing the New York State SNAP application from 17 pages to just 2 pages, which eliminates a major barrier for services. She oversees a number of departments, including advocacy, agency relations, outreach, and nutrition. Amalia, thank you so much for joining us and happy National Nutrition Month. The American Heart Association promotes Together Tuesdays because family meals feed the emotional well-being of all family members, and that is something you're especially passionate about.
Happy Nutrition Month to you as well.
So thank you for being here. I know you're going to talk a lot about these weekly sit-down meals and how important that is for family, friends, and neighbors to reduce stress, boost self-esteem. Unfortunately, at times, families might not have the resources to have those meals together or access all of those healthy, nutritious foods. Can you tell us a little bit about the key challenges that communities face when it comes to getting healthy food?
I think
How the bank addresses these challenges?
I think a lot of the times people just don't know where to go. Here at the food bank, we work with, we run programs in 11 counties, and we work with all of our partners. We have over 370 partners that we work with. We try to work with partners in various areas where food insecurity is an issue. And we try to make sure that the pantries have the most nutritious food that they can get their hands on. One thing that we've been doing for a long time, since 2002, we are a no soda, no candy food bank. It was important to us not only to feed people, but feed them well.
And how does the food bank collaborate with local organizations to ensure that food is distributed equitably across different neighborhoods, particularly in those underserved areas like you talked about there?
We use we communicate a lot with all the neighborhoods that we're communities that we're a part of. That could be anything from sitting into a community meeting to find out there is a high need in that area, as well as using the data available, whether it be food insecurity data, poverty data, to find out where those pockets are and partner with agencies in those areas.
Sure. And what role does the food bank play in addressing food insecurity during crises or emergencies like natural disasters or economic downturns?
In all the counties that we work in, we do have a relationship with the emergency management team in each of those counties. You know, Red Cross is always first and foremost, and we come in after that and try to fill those gaps where needed. It could be anything from when the storms we had in Oneida County, we had agencies down. We were in contact with those agencies to figure out if those agencies were even functional. At that point, if they're not, we needed to be able to pivot quickly to find out where that need was and to meet that need.
Sure. And how do you ensure that the food you provide is not only accessible, but also nutritious for the individuals and families you serve? You kind of touched on at the beginning that you cut out candy and things
Yeah,
along those
no
lines.
soda, no candy. 90% of our inventory is falls within that green category. So those are highly nutritious. Um, what we provide the most is fresh fruits and vegetables because that's what people are asking for. The canned goods are also necessary, canned goods, pouched food, for those that have difficult housing situations, whether they're homeless, they may not have the facilities to house fresh produce. So we need to make sure that those needs are addressed as well.
Sure. And we know that there is this connection between health and the foods that we consume. Can you share how the food bank has partnered with clinical providers to address health and health concerns?
Basically, for us, it's meeting people where they are. Um, we know that nutritious food is important to good health. So what we have done is worked with some of our healthcare partners to make sure that those that have been diagnosed with a chronic disease have access to these nutritious meals.
And in what ways can individuals or community members get involved to help create a more equitable food system or to just help with their local food banks?
Talking. Um, Food insecurity is a symptom of a larger issue, and we realize that, but we need to keep talking about it and normalizing. Food insecurity is an issue, and unfortunately, it's not going away. So whether it's donating food to your local pantry or keeping in conversation the issue of hunger, it's important, whether it be on a college campus or even in your own neighborhood.
Yeah. So let's just talking a little bit about some of the work you've been doing. Like I had mentioned at the beginning there that you've played a critical role in reducing the SNAP application from 17 pages to 2 pages, which eliminated a major barrier to service. Kind of talk about that and why that was so important to get people to be able to, get these types of services.
So we have a really incredible outreach team. And they meet people where they are and help screen them for eligibility for SNAP. So we help them through the application process, help them submit the application, um, and make sure that they get the benefit they're entitled to, which also gives them dignity and choice. So they can choose their foods that are culturally preferred, and choose those healthier options and be able to afford them.
And I like that you said there it gives them the dignity and the choice. Can you kind of touch on that and that like there shouldn't be any kind of a stigma with like going to a pantry, and getting past that.
So one of the largest things that we see when we're serving individuals, whether they're utilizing services, is that people don't want to be there. They don't want to be there. We have an older adult population that have always helped themselves and helped each other, but families live close and now they don't. People are spread out, they're more far away. So that helping hand from that neighbor is no longer there. So it's what services are out there. I will tell you, our hardest population to reach is our older adult population who are it's a proud group. And they don't want to ask for help. So for us, it's getting to let them know that they've paid into this program and it's there if they meet the eligibility guidelines. So I think with our older adult population, and then you have the population who still have this feeling of that they can only take what they can get.
Mm.
And maybe it's something they don't want to eat. I think the food bank has done a good job in the past 2 years to make sure that we're working with their families and actually meeting their needs and giving them what they want. We did some surveys at one of our local pantries, and the question is, do you get what you need from this pantry? Everybody was saying yes. Um, and we know that wasn't necessarily wholeheartedly the truth. So what we did was we changed the way we were asking the survey question and basically said, this pantry wants to serve you better. What do you need?
Mm.
What do you need? So it was fresh produce. It was hygiene items. So it's not just food all the time, but it was those other things. And we would have never known if we didn't change the way we asked the question. In order for us to better serve the community and serve the community what they need, we have to ask those questions. And I think that's something that we're working really hard to do. And also looking at cultural food preferences as well. To make sure we found that we have a large area on the north side of the city that once we started asking the questions, they were like, well, I have high blood pressure. I can't have a lot of salt. Instead of taking what we were giving them, what we changed it to be is what they needed. So everything that we provide is low in sodium. We try to be as low in fat as possible. It's very hard sometimes with those quick to prepare meals. Um, but we're trying to meet the need as best we can in the healthiest manner we can.
Right. And you've been doing this 29 years. I feel like on the news, it's almost yearly that we talk about, pantries are in need of more donations and more foods. Why do you think that's happening? And what would you want, what would your message be to folks out there, like in terms of meeting that need and contributing to your local pantries?
I think right now, in our economic state, the need is increasing. Um, our goal was always to work ourselves out of a job. But reality is, the cost of food has increased. The cost of housing has increased. So there is going to be more need. Um, the programs that we work with, we tell them if you're ever short on food, to let us know. And we can help in that aspect. If they see another program struggling, call us to see what we can do, because it's not just food pantries we work with. We have after school programs where we're doing hot meals every day. We assist with backpack programs throughout many of the communities that we serve as well. So all together, hopefully we can meet that need. But there is a need for donations to those programs and make those. And we tell the programs all the time, if there is a need and they feel that the community can assist, tell folks what you need. Whether it's cereal, it's pasta, it's these things, let folks know what you need and let us know what you need.
And isn't it also somewhat of like seasonal, like in terms of, I think a lot of people don't realize during the summer when kids are at home, they might not be getting all those meals. So it's important that schools still are providing meals even in the summertime. So like, do you guys see that too seasonally, more of a need?
Yes, we are summer feeding sponsors as well. And we provide breakfast and lunch to, I think we did last year, 14 programs in 2 counties. and the need is there. One site is serving 125 kids a day, 2 meals. Hunger doesn't take a vacation.
Yeah. For people, that wanna help get involved, they're listening to you. What kinds of foods should they be donating to food pantries to help others the best way possible?
Um, Sort of difficult to say, but the basics. There's bread, there's pasta, there's sauce, things to that can actually you can put together to make a meal.
Sure.
Those are the things that we look at. Some of our, even for our backpack programs, we're doing cereal, we're doing shelf-stable milk, we're doing individually wrapped vegetables or fruit, pull top items, because you also have to keep in mind that some of our families are unhoused. So things that are easy to open, and to keep it low sodium, low sugar as best we can.
And I think you kind of touched on it there, but something else I feel like I've heard in the past and people don't realize is, they think they're helping by just giving anything, but you might give a can, the person might not have a can opener, so it's like it's important to think about the things you're donating.
Right. And that was one thing that we had to step back. I think in our role, sometimes we make a lot of assumptions. We assume that we know what people need. We know in the frequency that they need it, and that's really not the case. Um, that's why we decided boots on the ground, we needed to actually have these community conversations and have community represent some of the services that we provide to make sure that we were providing them in the best way possible. And so it started, we provided a bunch of canned foods because we knew that housing the fresh produce was an issue for a group that we were working with. And come to find out, that was all great, but we didn't have can openers. So now that is also something we provide and make available to our programs.
Thank you so much, Amalia. I think that's everything from me. Is there anything else that you'd want to touch on? Any last takeaways you'd really want people to walk away with today?
Um, I just think food insecurity shouldn't be an embarrassment, and it shouldn't be um, something that people are embarrassed to talk about. We just need to keep talking and let people know that there are services out there. Um, and if they want to help, there's volunteer opportunities all the time to help pack, whether it's the packs that we do, the weekend packs that we do for schools, um, or even at some of our Kids Cafe program, which is our at-risk after-school programs. There's also volunteer programs, but we just need to keep talking about it and being creative. One of our newest projects is on one of our college campuses. We've put in food lockers. And those lockers, because we address the issue of the food being unaccessible for students' hours, because the food pantry on the college campus was in a building that closed at 3:30 every day. So now we have these lockers, and we're doing it with a QR code, and people can just go at the time that we can schedule a time, and they can pick it up when it's most convenient for them. So it's keeping everything neighbor focused for us.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Amalia. I learned so much. I'm sure everyone did as well. If anyone has any questions for Amalia, make sure you put them in the chat box, visible to everyone. And I will ask her those questions when we have time at the end of the panel for our Q&A.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, our next panelist now is Emily Gozy. She is a registered dietitian and a virtual nutrition coach. Emily is an accomplished registered dietitian from upstate New York who serves women all around the country. Her expertise lies in building confidence in the kitchen and helping her clients feel comfortable in their own skin through education, accountability, and tailored programs to help them achieve their goals. Emily is passionate for ending restrictive diets and promoting balanced nutrition and health with her clients. She's been featured in several national and local media outlets, and her work has even earned her a 2021 Recognized Young Dietitian of the Year award. Emily, wonderful to have you here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Absolutely. So, we just heard from Amalia all about access to healthy foods. Can you tell us more about what a healthy eating pattern looks like?
Yeah, so a healthy eating pattern, it's going to look a little bit different for everyone, but there's a basic strategy that I like to share with our clients when they're first coming to us. If we can start to set up our meals as PCC, so protein, carbohydrates, and color, so that fruits and vegetables, it's a better way for us to frame our meals and kind of check those boxes as the day goes on to make sure that we're getting in what we need. Now, then it boils down to portion sizes, and everyone's portions are going to look a little bit different depending on their needs and their activity. But trying to make sure that we're getting a really good amount of those fruits and vegetables because they're high in fiber, they can help our whole body health, our heart health, health on that cellular level is really important. And pairing those carbohydrates and proteins together for more consistent energy over an extended period of time. And then making sure that we're eating regularly. So many people that we work with, we find that they are skipping meals, they're missing meals, or they're only having one of those three components anytime that they eat. And they're like, oh my gosh, my energy level is dragging an hour later, or I'm hungry again. So trying to build that variety of the plate and a balanced plate is really important.
Absolutely. And you've touched on this a little bit there, but if you can elaborate more on how the food we're eating impacts our body.
Everything we put into our body affects how we function. It affects how we're feeling today, how we're feeling tomorrow, as well as our health in the future. So there's a lot of buzz right now around really highly processed foods, so foods that may not look anything like what we take when they come off the farm or wherever they're grown and changed into something else. When we do a lot of that processing, we lose a lot of those nutrients, which mean we have less of that nutrient exposure, which then can either cause stress or inflammation inside the body that can turn genes on or off, that can cause other health issues for us too. When I started my career as a dietitian in the nursing home, many of the issues or the problems that we were helping our patients with had stemmed from lifestyle choices that impacted their risk for developing disease and illness as they got older. Whether that be there was uncontrolled diabetes, whether that be their kidneys had started to fail, or they were chronic smokers, they have COPD. All of that comes down to how we're treating our bodies and what we're putting into our bodies for today's health, but also for that future.
And that leads me perfectly to my next question. Can you talk a little bit about that connection between diabetes and heart health, especially blood pressure?
Absolutely. So over time, high blood sugar levels from diabetes or uncontrolled blood sugar levels of pre-diabetes insulin resistance can cause damage to the blood vessels for our heart. So they make them more likely to develop the fatty deposits. So you might have heard of like atherosclerosis, which is the hardening of our arteries, but also if we have a high blood pressure, high cholesterol level, that can also impact that heart function for us too. The longer that someone has diabetes where it's uncontrolled, the higher the chances there are for that person to develop heart disease. And about 30% of people living with type 2 diabetes also have some form of cardiovascular disease. So they might seem like two separate things or two different systems, the circulatory system and the endocrine system, but they are so closely tied together. And many people have that crossover with both of those issues.
Yeah. And, Amalia talked about it with when it comes to sodium and salt. How can eating too much salt impact someone with high blood pressure or someone that already has diabetes?
Yeah, so excess salt in the body can cause issues and strain on the kidneys, which also tend to be affected by uncontrolled diabetes. So when we have that higher pressure coming out of our hearts, and maybe it's not able to travel all the way to those little capillaries at your fingers or in your toes, or put stress on some of those other systems inside of our body, we tend to have other issues start to develop. Increased salt can also cause blood pressure medications to not work as well. So even if you're on a blood pressure medication and your blood pressure is finally within that normal range, around that 120/80, we still need to be very mindful of our salt intake. The average American consumes 50% more than that recommended amount, and the American Heart Association recommends going no higher than 2,300 milligrams of sodium a day. We're really trying to focus around that 1,500, which can be very, very difficult with many of the highly processed foods that we consume.
So how do you approach helping your clients when they have specific dietary needs? Let's say someone has diabetes, let's say someone has hypertension, food allergies. How do you approach that while still promoting, the healthy lifestyle and the nutrition?
So we go through a full nutrition assessment with our clients and figure out like what's the thing that has the biggest need? What's the thing that we might be able to tackle first to start to get and go through what's called like the lowest hanging fruit? What's that smallest change that I can do? What's most pressing to their health into the future? And also letting the client tell us what do they want to start working on? Because maybe they're like, all right, I have diabetes or prediabetes in my family. I'm not concerned about that right now. My blood sugar levels are high, but I'm very concerned because my family had passed away young from a heart attack. And I want to focus on heart health. Letting them kind of guide what steps they want to take first is really important because it really is a collaborative approach when working with a dietitian. I'm not here to push any agendas. I'm here to let the client be put in that driver's seat and then to help guide them along the way to make sure that they are making the best choices for themselves and that they're also empowered with all of the nutrition knowledge and research that's out there. That's really the job of a registered dietitian is taking the nutrition science and then helping people translate it to their own lives and helping them interpret that. We also have to take into account, just like Amalia said, the cultural preferences of people and their beliefs are so important, which is why a one size fits all approach is not applicable to anybody. We really should not be doing cookie cutter anything. So small changes in progress are really what's going to be yielding those bigger results for people over time and also make these changes easier to handle. So starting small and letting the client be the guide of this is the issue that I want to tackle first. Let's talk about my cholesterol levels and go from there.
And when I was introducing you in your bio, you said you don't like restrictive dieting. And I think like so many times people, especially with social media and Instagram and TikTok, you're just always seeing these people, oh, here's my new diet. This is what I'm doing. This is how it works, and reduce belly fat and this and that. Kind of talk about the problem with the restrictive dieting and why it is important that you go to a registered dietitian and you actually come up with a plan that's right for you and not just, cookie cutter.
Yeah. So restrictive dieting research shows leads to overeating by 133%. So think of it as a pendulum. We can go from being really on point and I'm only eating healthy foods and I'm making everything from home. And maybe by Thursday or Friday of that week, you're like, I really want to go out to eat and I want a cheeseburger and that's not on my diet plan. So we tend to have this pendulum of overdoing it and then kind of rebounding back and forth where it has to be simple. I like the approach and what we take with our clients is eating what you'd like and adding what you need, and then empowering them with the education to make those changes. There are many people that are not registered dietitians out there that are still highly educated that can kind of be helpful for us in this journey. But there's also a large group of people, especially on social media, where they're saying like, I lost weight, I'll just teach you what I did. And a registered dietitian you have to take in the science behind it all. It's not just saying like, well, I ate 100 grams of protein, so you should eat 100 grams of protein. We look at that full person and taking in the account of what's their health looking like, what's their health and nutrition history, what's been going on, what does their family have, what are they at risk for, and then going from there. Whereas restrictive dieting and people that may not have that education or doing the time and the credentials to back up, they may not be seeing that bigger picture, and sometimes they tend to be very one-sided or cookie cutter approach. Not everyone, but there are a good amount of people that are following in that way, and it's more harmful for our health than it is helpful.
Sure. For people watching now that they don't want to go through a whole lifestyle change, but they just want to take baby steps, how do you suggest, we be smart shoppers when it comes to this weekend at the grocery store? How can I be a smart shopper?
We have to become more aware. We live so much of our lives on autopilot where our brains are saying, I will make the decision for you. Don't think about it. I know what's coming next. It's that subconscious part of our brain. So if we can slow down and set the time aside and look at the nutrition facts panels when we're reading them, look at the saturated fat, look at the added sugar, look at the sodium, look what those label claims are on the front and know that Low sodium is a regulated claim. Heart healthy is a regulated claim, whereas natural or clean, those don't have any regulations. So try to become more aware of what we're buying, how we're using it, and then how we can put all those things together. Taking time to plan meals is also really important too, rather than just grabbing things as you go throughout the store. If you can sit down for 5 minutes and say, all right, what do we have going on this week? Take out your calendar, write it down. And that's even before you start to figure out what kind of meals you need. Write down those obligations that might interfere with that meal time. Then figure out what type of meal do I need? Do I need leftovers, which it's leftover night tonight in my house? Do I need leftovers? Am I doing a casserole where it can feed me all week long for lunch? Can I do a more involved Food Network meal that has, so many dishes that it's taking up the entire kitchen? Or do I need something quick and easy? And then planning the meals from there. So giving yourself that time and taking up that energy and saying, I got to focus for my 5 minutes and write this stuff down and figure out what we're going to have. It's going to be easier for you to stick to changes. And then also ask questions of yourself, ask questions about the food that you're having. If you are going to a smaller grocery store, you might be able to talk to the butcher of like, oh, where is this food from? Or asking the person that's stocking the dairy, is this Upstate Farmers? Where do you get your milk from? Trying to figure out, where your food is coming from is also important and helps us to be more nutrition literate, where it's easier for us to make those changes.
Yeah, and you kind of touched on the planning aspect there. What are your thoughts on meal prepping, and how do you go about meal prepping? I try on Sunday nights, for example, to make some of my salads for the week so that I don't have to worry about it at 3 a.m. when I wake up, for work.
Meal prepping is a great tool. It does not have to mean that you're making 21 meals for the week ahead, just like that to pull out and reheat. It can be something where those pieces are put together. So maybe you don't have the time on a Sunday to make all of your salads for the week, but you can wash up your lettuce and put that in another bowl. You can cut up all of your vegetables that you're going to need for the week and they're set aside. You can pull the meat out and you can start to marinate it. So that makes dinner time a little bit easier. My favorite hack is just having the same breakfast all week long. I change my breakfast each week, but this week it's high protein waffles, yogurt, and apple, and my latte in the morning. So I'm having that protein, carb, and color, but I already know what it is. So I'm not walking into the kitchen in the morning when I'm in a rush, like, well, what am I going to have for breakfast this morning? So having a little bit of that plan and going with what feels good for you. If you want to have everything or it's reheat and eat, absolutely. I don't want to spend 6 hours in my kitchen on a Sunday, especially as the weather's getting nicer. Figure out what works for you and your family, and then also look at what can I do ahead of time. If I need 3 recipes need cooked chicken, can I cook the chicken on a Sunday? And then I can just throw it into those recipes.
Absolutely. So walking away with some ideas from you here while we have you. So what are some of your favorite meal prep meals?
So that's a good question. I love to do like a sheet pan gnocchi. So I will take a sheet pan and I will do the mini gnocchi. I'll do olive oil, which is great for heart health, can help reduce cholesterol levels for us. Do chicken sausage, which is pretty lean, about 15 grams of protein per link, and then put a bunch of vegetables on it. Toss it with that olive oil, salt, pepper, and garlic. Little bit on the salt, not a lot, just a little bit, just to help with that char. And then let it cook for about 20-25 minutes at 400. And then I put pesto on it. Pesto is also very high in those healthy fats. So you're going to be getting a really satiating meal that has that protein, carb, and color. That's another one that you can reheat and eat. Sometimes I air fry it. Sometimes I will reheat it in the air fryer, or I'll reheat it in the microwave. A lasagna is always an easy one too, if you're choosing more of those low fat dairy options, those leaner cuts of meat. I love bang bang shrimp bowls. Like we made those last week for lunches and they were absolutely delicious, and they're just so easy to kind of throw together and have made ahead of time. And that was just a leftover from one of our dinners the other night.
Awesome. And then what about not meal prep, just favorite meal to cook or eat, go-to meal?
I love flatbreads. I love pizza. We had our honeymoon in Italy and I ate so much pizza. My heart was so happy. So I love to get like those non-breads, getting the whole grain ones where you get more healthy fats, proteins, fibers. I'll put some chicken on there. I'll do like a low fat ranch. We'll do a little bit of bacon, just a tiny little bit, maybe about a tablespoon or so. And then do like some mozzarella cheese and make like chicken bacon ranch pizzas. Or a Caesar salad is so good. I miss the days where Wegmans made really big ones right in front of you at the grocery store. So I'll make my own version of that. I'll make my own dressing with Greek yogurt, toss some chicken on there, make some homemade croutons, and it's absolutely delicious.
Okay. Any takeaways for folks watching? Anything you'd really want to make sure that they leave today? And if one thing they remember from Emily, what is it?
Well, there's three things really that I like to share with people if you're going to be making healthy changes. Number one, starting with awareness. Like we're talking about with shopping, know what you're doing, know what you're buying, know how it's going to affect your health and how it makes you feel. Kind of take stock with what you're having of like, oh, when I have 3 days worth of fried foods, I don't feel really good. Make note of that. And that can also help you to make choices in the future. Number two is start with small changes, like getting out for a walk, 10 minutes on your lunch hour if you're able to. Taking your dog around the block versus just letting them run around the backyard is a really great way to get moving. Remember, the recommendation for exercise is 150 minutes of moderate activity a week. Trying to not cook with salt if you can, and slowly eating our meals. And then lastly, ask for help. Diabetes and heart disease are things that registered dietitians can help you navigate through, reduce your risk for, and help you to lead a better life.
Okay. Thank you so much, Emily. Reminder for our audience to put any questions you have in the chat box now. I'm going to ask Amelia to come back on screen for our Q&A, and we will get to some of the folks that we have some questions from. So let me go to the chat box and start pulling these up. And again, you can still write them on in here. And our friends at AHA way. Okay, so here's the first one. If you don't have regular access to fresh fruits and veggies, what is the next best option? So let's go to Emily first.
Canned vegetables are always a great option. There is a really good variety now of ones that are no salt added, which means there's no salt added to that canned product. So if those are not available, rinsing those vegetables that are canned will reduce up to 40% of the sodium intake. Another really great one to look at too would be frozen things. They're picked at the peak of freshness, flash frozen, and usually have nothing added to them, no added sodium, no added sugar, unless they're going to be in a sauce. So those are really great ways where they tend to also be a little bit cheaper than some of the fresh stuff, because let's face it, if you're in upstate New York right now, it is not like green bean season right now.
Absolutely. Amalia, do you want to answer that one as well? If you don't have regular access to fresh fruits and veggies, what is the next best option?
Well, I think Emily really covered it all.
That's fine. That's fine. I wanted to make sure I got to both of you there. Okay, so let's go to our next question here. Catherine has a sweet tooth. She wants to know, are there substitutes for very sugary things that you can suggest? Let's do Amalia first this time.
I think for myself, fruits for me, the sweetness from there instead of a bunch of additional added sugar. But sure. Emily's the pro on this one.
So I would recommend, not doing the sugar-free alternatives of things because they tend to be high in sugar alcohols. Sugar alcohols can cause disruptions of our gut microbiome. So think of more gas, bloating, upset stomach. Also, when I was working in the nursing home, sorbitol, which is a common sugar-free sweetener, was used as a laxative aid for people that could not go to the bathroom. So trying to stay away from some of those sugar-free alternatives that have those sugar alcohols is a good option. But I agree with Amalia, trying to lead with fruit. And if you really want something sweet, if you're like, I love chocolate, getting the individual portion of it where it's portion controlled, you could throw it into your lunch. I'd rather you normalize it than say, I cannot have this, because then next time you're around chocolate or chocolate cake, whatever it is, you may not feel like you can control how much you have. Normalizing it is an absolute better approach than saying, I cannot have this at all.
Totally. Moderation, everything in moderation, right? What is your go-to healthy snack, especially for afternoons on the go? Let's do Emily.
I love popcorn and a cheese stick. It is so good. A couple of years ago, I got one of those silicone like pop-up popcorn makers. It was, I think, the most used Christmas gift from my husband. Now for years, I use it almost every single day. And so making popcorn from home and then having a cheese stick with it, we're getting, some really good whole grains, because corn is a whole grain and popcorn is a whole grain, and then pairing it with a great source of protein too.
What about you, Amalia? What's your go-to healthy snack?
I had to laugh when you said cheese stick because that's my favorite. And my kids have, it's now as adults, that's one of their favorite things still. So.
And I'm the same way. I just ate my cheese stick like an hour ago. It's just so easy. And like, even if it's not cold, it's like, whatever, it's okay.
So good.
Okay, here's another one. If you only have the basics, but you still want flavor, what can you do to avoid salt? What other options are available?
Using fresh herbs is another great option, or even some of the dried things. You can get them for not a super high expense. If you go to like Aldi's, you may be able to get like one of those containers of it for maybe $1.50 or so, where you can add garlic, you can add lemon pepper. There's also a really great variety of salt-free seasonings, whether it be Mrs. Dash or any of those other brands that are out there. So give those a try, and play with how you're cooking your food. So if you are steaming it, it's going to taste broccoli is going to taste a little bit different, and in my opinion, better when you roast it versus steaming it. But change how you're preparing it and see what those tastes do to it.
Totally. Anything you want to touch on, Amalia?
To speak of seasonings, that was something that was asked for by some of our neighbors, utilizing the pantries. They were like, we want seasonings. It doesn't have to be salt, but they were like, we just like seasonings, so we were able to do that. So check out your local pantry because they may have it as well.
Yeah, that's a really great point. We all know how easy it is to buy, processed or packaged food. Catherine wants to know, what should I look for when buying those that you can still buy something that's, healthful, even though it's packaged? That might be
Do
tougher.
you want to go?
Oh, no, I definitely think that's a you question.
Just look at the ingredients panel, like look at that ingredients facts list, see what's been added to it. All of our food is processed to some degree. There's nothing that we are taking out of the ground and just eating it right away. Even potatoes, they have to be washed and kind of moved along or taken from the farm to where we're buying them. So looking at what those ingredients are and saying like, okay, you're not going to know everything that's in there, and that's completely okay. But trying to say like, does this have minimal ingredients? Then what does that nutrition facts panel show me? Is it something that ideally has 5% or less of our sodium value in it? Or is there a lower sodium option that I can grab? Is it something that is still going to give me, the nutrients that I'm looking for? There are plenty of products that are still processed and whole grains. So if you're looking for a whole wheat bread, look for that first ingredient to be whole wheat flour or whole grain flour. It's processed, but you're getting the bran, the endosperm, and germ, which is where you're going to get the protein, heart healthy fats, and fiber.
Yeah, and to that end, like, I guess this would be a follow-up for me. Like, I always, when I'm looking at the ingredient label, I tend to think less is more. So like if it's peanut butter and it's just peanuts, I'm like, okay, this one looks good. But if it has like 6 things, I'm like, I don't know. Even if I don't know what it means, it's like, is that a good way to look at it too? Like less is more when it comes to ingredients?
I think it depends on what you're buying. Some things like cereal, we're not eating, wheat right out of the field or anything like that. So I think it depends on what you're looking for. And if you're like, I'm really making sure that I am, trying to get more of those whole foods and those whole ingredients, the less, or the whole pieces, trying to look for things that have the less amount of those added things is definitely important, where it's a shorter ingredients list. Sometimes there's just so many components. It's like, let's say a bagged salad kit from the grocery store. It's going to have a long ingredient list because there's 4 things that they've thrown in there. Yes, there's the lettuce mix, but they've also added the dressing, which has its own ingredients list. It's added a couple different toppings, which also has their own ingredients list too.
Here's another one we have. Are there specific foods that help blood pressure the way that salmon is supposed to help with cholesterol?
So trying to go as low sodium as possible are going to help with blood pressure, but those heart healthy foods definitely cross over together. So salmon is great for cholesterol levels, of course, but it also, if we're promoting lower cholesterol levels, we're also promoting better blood pressure levels too. Trying to stay really hydrated is also very important with promoting lower blood pressure levels, but it really comes down to the sodium, where we know that it has that direct impact on our blood pressure levels.
Okay. Last question. Is it more important to count calories or macros?
So they're the same thing. They all kind of come in together. It depends on what your goals are. If you're someone who is looking to gain strength, if you're someone who's working out, you're like, I want to get faster, and I'm paying attention to the protein intake, and I'm paying attention to getting enough carbohydrates because I'm an endurance athlete, looking at the macronutrients are going to make better sense for you. But if you're someone who's saying like, I am looking to be in a calorie deficit, I'm looking to lose weight, we might look at that overall caloric intake. But remember, they come together. All of those macronutrients have calories in them. So you could be hitting those calorie goals, but you could have really unbalanced macronutrients, or you could have great hitting all those macronutrients, but it could also be more calories than you need. So that's where a dietitian can come in and figure out what's the next step that we need and what's going to be most sustainable in the future.
I would like to ask each speaker to leave us with a call to action or a closing thought. So let's start with Emily on that. Call to action or closing thought for our listeners.
Start thinking about what you can add to your plate rather than take away. That's how successful change really comes. We don't like to be told what to do. Like I was saying before, every time you say, I'm never having ice cream, those cravings come back even stronger. So start to say, if you really want fries that you made tonight with your dinner, how can you add a protein and a fruit or vegetable with it to make it a balanced meal? And then to pay attention to the portion size.
Okay. Amalia, leave us with a call to action or a closing thought.
I guess one of the closing thoughts as we're getting to the end of the school year is that hunger doesn't take a vacation. Some families don't have access or unaware of where there's summer feeding sites and they rely on school meals. And in some places they're just not. So there are summer feeding sites. You can go to our website where we'll have a list and a search tool that you can utilize to put in your zip code and find out where the nearest summer feeding site is for you and your family.
Okay. Emily and Amalia, thank you both so much today for all of your time.
Thank you
so much.
And to all of our sponsors that made this possible, thank you for making Check It Challenge possible. And thank you to all of our audience today for joining us. Your registration from this event gives you full access to previously recorded sessions and future webinars in the series. The next Check It community conversation is Move More, and that will be on Wednesday, April 23rd at 12 o'clock. We hope to see you there. Keep on checking your blood pressure and show us what you're cooking up this month by tagging the American Heart Association at AHA New York on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And always remember to use that hashtag #CheckIt. So have a great rest of your day, and thank you all so much for joining.